Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. I mean, I feel very badly, actually, because I've known him as being somebody that works so hard and has done such a good job. I feel very badly.
Come on in, go inside.
An invitation into Donald Trump's world.
In 2019, one of the most powerful criminal investigations in modern American history suddenly stopped. The man at the center of it died inside a high-security jail cell while awaiting trial. Behind him were thousands of allegations, decades of accusations, and documents linking him to some of the most powerful social circles in the world. Years later, millions of pages of records, court filings, and testimonies continue to be studied. And still, one question echoes across newsrooms, courtrooms, and public debate. How did Jeffrey Epstein operate for so long, and what does this case reveal about power, influence, and justice? The Epstein case is not only about one individual accused of horrific crimes. It is about systems of accountability, wealth, and influence. It is about how victims can be ignored when powerful people are involved. For many observers, this case exposed uncomfortable truths about how legal systems sometimes struggle when facing individuals with extreme wealth and connections. The case also forced governments, law enforcement agencies, and institutions to answer difficult questions about past decisions. Even today, new documents and testimony continue to shape how history will judge this case. For survivors and advocates, the case represents both a failure of justice and a moment that forced society to confront difficult realities about abuse and power. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein was born in Brooklyn, New York, in 1953. He began his professional career in education before moving into finance, where he eventually built an image as a wealthy investment manager. Over time, he became known for his connections with high-profile individuals in business, politics, and entertainment. However, questions about his finances and business operations followed him for years. By the early 2000s, serious allegations began emerging. Multiple young women reported being recruited and abused, with some victims later telling investigators they were minors at the time. Between roughly 2001 and 2006, authorities in Florida investigated accusations that Epstein was running a network that exploited young girls. In 2008, Epstein reached a controversial plea agreement that allowed him to avoid federal charges and serve about 13 months in custody with work release privileges. Many legal experts and victims' advocates later criticized this deal as unusually lenient. For years after his release, Epstein returned to high society, maintaining business and social connections despite public records of his conviction. The case might have faded from public attention if not for renewed investigative journalism years later. In 2018, major reporting projects identified dozens of additional alleged survivors and revealed new details about earlier legal decisions. Public pressure quickly grew, and federal prosecutors reopened investigations into Epstein's activities. The return of the case. On July 6, 2019, federal authorities arrested Epstein at a New Jersey airport. He was charged with federal sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. Prosecutors alleged Epstein had operated a system in which young girls were recruited and abused over many years. The charges carried the potential for decades in prison. The arrest triggered global media coverage. It also created political fallout, particularly surrounding earlier legal decisions connected to the case. For many survivors, the 2019 arrest felt like the first real chance at accountability on a national level. Civil lawsuits were also moving forward, and investigators were reviewing financial records, flight logs, and communications linked to Epstein's network of contacts. For the first time, it appeared the full scope of Epstein's activities might be exposed in open court. The death that changed everything. On August 10, 2019, Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York. He was pronounced dead shortly afterward. The official cause of death was ruled suicide by hanging. However, the circumstances immediately raised serious concerns. Reports later revealed failures inside the jail, including guards failing to perform required checks and malfunctioning cameras in the housing area. Some correctional staff were later charged with falsifying records. Multiple investigations reviewed the circumstances of his death. While officials stated they found no evidence of homicide, the combination of procedural failures and the high-profile nature of the case fueled public skepticism. Epstein's death meant criminal proceedings against him ended before a trial could take place. For survivors, it meant many questions might never be answered in court. The files and documents. After Epstein's death, civil cases, government reviews, and document releases continued for years. Large volumes of records connected to investigations, lawsuits, and associated individuals were gradually made public through court processes and transparency laws. These documents included financial records, communications, witness statements, and legal filings. Some documents confirmed Epstein maintained relationships and contact with high-profile individuals across multiple industries. However, investigators and courts repeatedly emphasized an important distinction. Appearing in contact records or documents does not prove criminal wrongdoing. Law enforcement officials also stated they did not uncover verified evidence of a coordinated trafficking operation involving multiple elite clients, and no confirmed universal client list was officially verified by investigators. Even so, the scale of Epstein's operations and the number of people who interacted with him raised ongoing questions about oversight, warning signs, and accountability. Global reaction. The Epstein case sparked global reaction and public debate. Victims' advocacy groups called for greater transparency and reforms in how abuse cases involving powerful individuals are investigated. Governments faced pressure to release records while also protecting survivor identities. In some cases, document releases were delayed or redacted to prevent exposure of victim information. The case also triggered broader conversations about wealth, legal systems, and how influence can shape outcomes. Media coverage, documentaries, and public investigations continued exploring the case years after Epstein's death. For many observers, the case became a symbol of systemic failure and the need for stronger protections for victims. Unanswered questions. Even today, many questions remain. Observers continue asking how Epstein maintained influence despite years of allegations. Others question whether earlier legal decisions allowed abuse to continue longer than it should have. Some investigators continue reviewing records to better understand how Epstein built and maintained his network. The case also raised broader questions about how institutions respond when allegations involve powerful individuals. These questions extend beyond one case and touch on larger issues about justice, accountability, and institutional responsibility. The Epstein case is not just about one individual, it is about systems, power structures, and the responsibility societies have to protect vulnerable people. The documents, testimonies, and investigations connected to the case form a complex historical record. While not every question may ever be fully answered, the case has already changed public awareness about abuse, power, and accountability. Perhaps the most lasting legacy of this case will be the attention it brought to survivors and the importance of listening when victims come forward.